Now to answer the blue questions. Half of 10 is the same as 10 divided by 2, and that is 5. If you need to visualize that, you just need 10 coins. 10 coins, you put the same amount on both sides, and you can see half of 10 is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could also use a bead string. Start with 10, fold it in half, and you can see there are 5 on each side. Number 8. 20 divided by 2. This is very easy to see with 2 10 coins. Half of 20 is 10. Number 9. Half of 30. That's obviously exactly the same as saying 30 divided by 2. For this one, we look at 3 10s. Now we can split 2 of them in half, but in order to split the final one, we've got to convert that into 10 ones. So these 10 ones are the same as that 10, so I can exchange them. It's the same number, it's still 30, it's just represented differently so that we can split them in half. And now we just have to share the ones equally on both sides. And you can see that half of 30 is 15. Notice also how we could use the first 2 questions to solve this one. 20 and 10 is 30. Half of 20 is 10, half of 10 is 5, so half of 30 is 15. You could also use a bead string to help you solve this. You've got 30 beads and you fold them in half, and you can see that there are 15 on each side. Number 10, half of 50. You can either use the coins or the beads. For this one, it's quicker to use the beads. We have 50 beads, and I halve them, and you've got 25 on each side. Half of 550. Now we already know that half of 50 is 25, so I can use that answer. So I only really need to find half of 500. 400 can be split evenly. The final 100 needs to be split in half. I can't do that with that one coin, so I need to exchange. Those 10 10s are the same as that 100, so I can exchange that. It's the same number, it's still 500, but it's now in a position where I can share them evenly. There you can see that half of 500 is 250. So now I'm going to use a diagram. Half of 500 is 250. Half of 50 is 25. Put those two together. I've got 2 hundreds, 50 and 20, which is 7 10s, 70, and 5 ones, and the answer is 275. Interestingly, I can also use a bead string to do half of 500 if I pretended that each of these beads was worth 10 instead of 1. If each of these beads is worth 10, we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, we've got 100 in each section. So that's worth 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Fold it in half. And on each side I have 100, 200, and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Remembering that each of the beads is worth 10 instead of 1. Number 12, half of 770. I'm going to use a diagram for this. 770. Half of 700 is 350. If I wanted to, I could get 700 coins and split them in the way that we've already shown, but I know that half of 700 is 350 because I know that half of 70 is 35, because I've learnt that fact. So it's always useful to know your number facts as well, because then you can use them. And if half of 70 is 35, then half of 700 will be 10 times bigger. Half of nothing is nothing. You put it all together, you've got 3 hundreds, you've got 8 tens, and you've got 5 ones. And the answer is 385. The final section, the red questions. Half of 10 is the same as doing 10 divided by 2. I'm sure you know it's 5. But in case you didn't, you can see it very easily with the bead string. Half of 10 is 5. It's 5 on each side. Half of 1. So there's 1. And if you find half of a whole one, it's going to be a half. You could also express that as a decimal. If you took your whole one and you exchanged it for 10 tenths. Now I'm going to be doing a lesson on decimals and fractions. In fact, I'm going to be doing quite a few lessons on decimals and fractions coming up. But just in case you want to know a little bit about it now, if each of these is a tenth, you'd need 10 of them to make a whole one. So I'm going to exchange that, and I put the same one, equal number on either side, and you can see there's 5 tenths on each side. And 5 tenths can also be written as 0.5, because this is your tenths column. Number 15. Half of a half. You can see this in a diagram quite easily. There's half, half as much again will be a quarter. You can also do it in decimals. If we take our 0.5 and we're going to find half of that, let's take our 5 tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We split them in half. We get 2 tenths on either side, but we've got to split this tenth in half. So 1 tenth is actually equal to 10 hundredths. 1 tenth is 10 hundredths. If you don't understand that now, don't worry, I'd skip this section for now because the level's probably a little bit too difficult, but I'm going to do a lesson on this in a little while. However, if you do understand that 1 tenth is 10 hundredths, then we can continue with the explanation, because we split these evenly, and you can see half of 0.5 is 0.25, because we have 2 tenths and 5 hundredths. Because this is your hundredths column. We've kind of answered this one already. Half of 0.5 is the same as half of a half, because a half and 0.5 are the same thing. So it's 0.25. Number 17. A half of 15. For this, you just need to know what a half of 10 is and what a half of 5 is. So we'll use a diagram. Half of 10 is 5. But what's half of 5? You can see that on a number string as well. There's 5, you halve it, you get 2 on each side, and you get 1 at the top that you've got to split in half. So half of 5 is 2.5. Which is 7.5, which equals 7.5. You could also share that with coins, but I think if you've got this far, you probably won't need to. Final question, number 18. 535 divided by 2. We use a diagram. Half of 500 is 250, because I know that half of 50 is 25, and half of 500 will be 10 times bigger. Half of 30 is 15. That is just a fact that I have learnt. But if you want convincing of that, just use a bead string. There's 30, fold it in half, and you have 15 on each side. 2 tens are split evenly, and the final 10 is split in half with 5 either side. Half of 5 is 2.5, 2.5. Again, the bead string can prove that. You've got 5 beads, fold them in half. You've got 2 whole ones on either side and 1 in the middle, which needs to be split. Altogether, you've got 2 hundreds, 5 tens and 1 10 is 6 tens. 5 ones and 2 ones is 7 ones, and a half left over. And as a decimal, that would be 267.5. So my final challenge to you now is see how far you can keep halving the numbers. So let's attempt the problem again, but this time Freddie needs to get as close as possible to the end without ever quite getting there. How far can you go? And let's have a little competition, let's make it a bit fun. Once you've gone as far as you can go in halving numbers, then post your number on my Facebook page, Help at Maths, and we'll see who can go the furthest. So enjoy the problem, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson.